Welcome, everybody. This is the Pick and Winner Show from Run Pure Sports. And I've got my man, JBC, back with me this week after a week off. And we're missing Bryce for 2 weeks. So hopefully we'll get him back next week. I am, of course, Statsational. JBC, what's going on, brother?
Yeah, we had a couple winners last night on Miami with the 12.5 and the over 49.5. A bit of a dicey ending for that over, but it got there.
Yeah, I like Miami myself last night. I've been doing really well on these Thursday games. Sunday's been a little bit more tricky for me, but if I could stick to Thursday night, things would be going well. So yeah, I mean, let's dive in to this week. You just told me here, Jaden Daniels. That's a big some big news. So Jaden Daniels will be out this week. So we're just getting that news.
Mariota. The line had kind of already reflected that, I feel like.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll get into that game really rather soon here. So let's just dive into the week. We're going to look at the rest of the NFL games here for week 3, and we'll get both of our opinions here on which way we're going. So I'll start with you on the first game. So we're going to look at Indianapolis, Tennessee. I would say maybe one of the most pleasant surprises, at least to the upside, has been Indianapolis. Daniel Jones going over to that team. This offense, I don't believe, has punted yet in the first 2 games of the season. I believe that is true. Have not punted. I don't think they've turned it over either. So that's been it's been an unbelievable offensive performance thus far for Daniel Jones. Maybe that change of scenery working out for him. What do you like here in this with the Colts and Tennessee on this this first matchup of the weekend for us?
Tennessee has really not shown me a whole lot on offense or defense, really. I mean, I guess they kind of hung in there against Denver, but Denver kind of employed a pretty what's the word I'm looking for? Conservative game plan. I think because they knew that they were a heavy favorite to win that game. And last week, Indianapolis played that same Denver team and they won. And while it was dicey and they were losing pretty much the entire game, they did win. They looked a lot better against Denver than Tennessee did. I mean, I know the transitive property doesn't really work with sports like that, but I got to believe that Indy is a significantly better team than the Titans. Cam Ward has not really – I mean, I'm sure he's coming along fine, but it's early. And laying only 4, I like Indy here.
Yeah. What about the total? I mean, we've seen the Tennessee defense has been okay thus far this season. I would think, and certainly in that Denver game, they looked very good. Do we have any takes? 43.5 is the total right now. Do we think this Tennessee defense, I would guess that's their strongest unit. Not guess, it is their strongest unit. And the strongest unit for the Colts is the offense. So who's going to win that battle? Obviously, you seem to like the Colts, obviously, to win the game. So does that mean you like this game to go over as well?
I think it's going to go over. The Colts have shown a lot of, as you mentioned, they haven't punted yet. And so for a team that hasn't punted yet, a 43.5 total seems kind of low. I think by the end of the season, we might start seeing Indianapolis totals creep up. I know Tennessee doesn't really score a lot, but I don't think Tennessee is really trying to take the air out of the ball either. So the pace will probably be fine. I think it goes over.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you on both sides here. So, I mean, I like I don't love the game for a bet. I would take the Colts here, lay the points, 4 points at most books, 4.5 over at DraftKings, and you're getting slightly less juice there, which I kind of like. That half point on the 4, not nearly as important, I think, as the savings that we're going to get on the juice. But I agree on the total as well. I think while the Tennessee defense I do think is good, I'm a believer in this Indianapolis offense. I think the Indianapolis – I don't think it's a fluke here that they've gone the first 2 games. Now, they haven't played the toughest of schedules, granted, and they're not up against a really particularly tough team here either. I actually was going to ask you this. And, last year we had that team. I thought Washington was kind of that team last year that we just did not expect. I think early in the year, certainly no one was really expecting that to be a playoff team. We're 2 weeks in. I mean, is this Indianapolis team a playoff team or not?
Well, I bet them to make the playoffs before the season end to win the division at the inflated numbers. I want to say it was like maybe 400 to win the division. No, 420 for the playoffs and 800 for the division or something like that. So I think Daniel Jones significantly increases the team's floor. And, I'm not really a believer in the Texans. The Jaguars obviously look spicy, but they blew that game last week. So, I think it's going to be between Indy and the Jaguars. Indy might pull it out. I certainly think it's about 50-50 at this point that they make the playoffs. And, I like where I'm standing with my bets.
Yeah, I think this is one of those teams that I don't know if it's necessarily a fluke here, what they're doing offensively, because I thought this was a pretty good team. I was a Richardson guy coming into the year last year. I really thought he was going to progress, and obviously that did not work out. I was also a Daniel Jones guy a couple of years ago, hoping that his bounce back in fantasy, after he had that really good year, and then he got that contract with New York, I really thought we were going to see good things from him, and that just did not happen. So I think the talent is there. We've seen Daniel Jones do this before, and maybe the change of scenery, maybe the new coaching, different personnel, because that Giant personnel wasn't exactly the best that they were putting out there on the field, is helping him out. So, yeah, I think this Colts team is definitely worth looking at in a obviously very favorable matchup here. Could be looking at a 3-0. They did get lucky, but, sometimes the bounce of the ball has got to go your way to make the playoffs. We talk about it all the time. Having 7 wins and 10 wins really isn't all that much different.
They're going to fall somewhere in there.
That's probably where they go. And then, but they already got that one good break last week. You're always going to need that. Like those 7 to 10 win teams are all pretty close to each other.
Yeah.
So it's year in, year out. Who's just lucky enough to get a couple of fumbles that bounce your way. You get just what essentially was a stupid play last week on that. You just kind of got to let a kicker like that go ahead and take a crack at it from that distance and hope for the best. You can't get the leverage call there and basically give them a gimme field goal. So, they get lucky there, but I agree with you here. I think the Colts will be worth looking at. They should go to 3-0 and start becoming interesting. But I agree. I think their total is a little bit low for the total in this game is a little low for what I think this Indianapolis offense has been and I think will continue to be. So I'm with you on this one. I like the Colts and the over. All right, let's move over to my neck of the woods here in Tampa. We got the Jets coming in. This one is 7 over at DraftKings with a little bit less juice. A lot of other books have it at 6.5 if you like the favorite. And 43.5 again is the total. Now, we saw this Jet team put up a ton of points week 1 and then basically not even show up last week. The Bucs played a tight game. It was an entertaining game for sure. They convert that 4th down Monday night. Baker has that big run. They get themselves another win. So, Tampa, another team in kind of a weak division there. Who knows? They should be the favorites, I think, to win that division and get to the playoffs. The Jets,
they've already got the game in the bag against the Falcons too, which they shouldn't.
They do have the game. Yeah, so you basically have that half game edge with that as well. So really in the driver's seat early, Tampa. Jets are scratching their heads trying to figure things out. We could get this one for less than a touchdown. Do we like the Bucs to be able to cover this with laying less than a touchdown?
Well, as I spoke about last week before the Monday night game, with Vita Vea, Tampa's strength is against the run. Like the way that you get to Tampa is by throwing it, and the Jets can't fucking throw it. I think it's a really, really bad matchup for the Jets. I don't see how they're going to be able to run the ball on Tampa. Nobody ever does. So 6.5 seems kind of like a gift to me. I think it stays under. I don't think the Jets will be able to score like hardly at all.
The interesting thing I thought it was one of the best in-game bets to make was last week when the Bucs during that game, you saw
when they both scored on the scripted drive at the beginning.
Well, they scored early and they were moving the ball early, but then they had an injury on the offensive line, and it seemed to totally change the how well they were able to perform offensively, especially throwing the ball. Baker had a ton of time and then didn't, and they were not able to move the ball after that at all. I'm not a big fan right now of what the Houston offense is doing. I just thought the in-game under on that game was the bet, right after all those injuries, and they really didn't
Mhm.
score much. I think both teams just scored a touchdown apiece after that happened. So so I'd be curious. I think this game, I'm leaning here towards the Jet side. I actually think this game is going to be a little bit low scoring and tight. I agree with you in the aspect. I don't know how many points the Jets are going to be able to put up here, but I think the Bucs are going to struggle a little bit scoring as well. I know the Jet defense hasn't exactly lit it up yet. I could be totally wrong here. I think that 43.5 though is a low number. Obviously, more so that number's kind of reflecting the fact that they don't think the Jets are going to score a lot of points. I'm going to take the under though. I think the game stays low scoring, and I think the Jets keep this one within a touchdown. So I do like I like the Jets here.
And the fact that both teams kind of like to pound the rock a little bit, run it. You tend to like unders in those games.
Yeah, I mean, but I do agree with you. I think they're going to have a hard time with the traditional just kind of hand it off 3 yards in a cloud of smoke sort of game plan. I think it's going to have to be, it's going to have to be a little bit more than that. Now there's no Fields this week, right? So that could potentially, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. If Fields isn't in there.
I mean, Tyrod's not really like a dynamic down the field passer either. He's more of a, dink and dunk, which Tampa is to front seven. I trust them a lot more than the defensive backs.
What do we think what's the number here? Where did they move the line off of Fields to Taylor? I'm trying to see. I don't think it moved all that much from
5.5 to 6.5, 7.
Right. So it was about a point. It's about a point move, I thought. Yeah, which is not a lot.
But across the 6, I mean,
to get across the 6, agreed. It does take more. To get this past the 7 would actually be a massive move. You're right in that aspect. So maybe it's maybe it's kind of a 2-point move or something like that. I think the question, I like games where you have the backup quarterback in. If you get a good read, I think more often than not, the books tend to overestimate the value of the starting quarterback. Obviously, it's going to be team dependent, who the backup is. I think more often though, because they think the general public, now may not be the case in this in this aspect here with Fields. I thought that was the case coming into the game last week. I thought with Mac Jones with San Francisco, I think you can oftentimes play the team that is playing the backup quarterback or has to play the backup quarterback due to injury. I think more often than not, the book and the market on the whole will just overestimate the value of what that starter.
There's just a lot of variance there. So I think that even if they overestimate it, you end up with really, either end of the bell curve type results. Either like it'll be like Mac Jones, where he's basically the same player, or the team will lose like fucking 40-0.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously that's going to happen a bunch.
But Max also played a lot. Tyrod's played a lot. Jake Brown played a lot.
Right.
Carson Wentz played a lot. I'm less. I haven't seen the lines move a ton. And for the Vikings, it got better when it was announced that Wentz was playing.
Yeah, I think I talked to Ed Miller on the podcast that I do, and he actually has a company where they produce a lot of the live in-market lines for the sports books, and he was saying on that podcast basically one of the best angles if you are live, if you are a live bettor, you want to bet these games in-game better, is looking at, especially when injuries happen, like in the NFL, and the quarterback, obviously one of the most important ones. But if you have a really good read on NFL, on what you think the value is, as opposed to the market, because it's really just human beings figuring out. It's a very tough number. They can have all the data that they want, but it's very tough to kind of figure out the exact precise how many points are we giving. And in game, it becomes even more difficult
because it's just an algorithm doing it.
It's an algorithm, and they just don't know, right? You can, if you're really sharp at that. And I think my example with the Monday night game where you had offensive line injury, they don't necessarily price that in all that easily. So if you're really paying attention to the games, he also suggested, if you're watching college football games, small conferences, that they just can't focus on all of these. And you've got basically one trader, they call him, at the sportsbook, who's really making that call as to where they're going to put it. The limits may not be massive, but you can take advantage. And Ed really thought that there was still a lot of edge to be had in game. So keep an eye on that. And if you can,
if you really know what you're doing and know what you're looking for, yeah, in game is going to be your biggest edge. But again, as you spoke on, they limit the shit out of that real quick. But as far as these games go, NFL full games or for in game, if you're betting just like the spread, I mean, like they let me get down $30,000 on the Falcons on Sunday, mid game. So
yeah, you're not going to be as limited on NFL just because the liquidity is there. And so they don't mind taking that kind of they don't mind taking a little bit more action on the NFL. That's also one of the reasons the NFL is just so tough to beat, because of that liquidity. You've got such a wisdom of the crowd type of deal.
It's the sharpest, outside of English Premier League, Champions League, it's probably the sharpest market there is.
Yeah, so that's why I think the prop markets and the in-game markets really do offer some value, but you've got to be sharp in knowing you've got to really pay attention. It's hard to do it on Sunday when all the games are going on, but if you've got to there's going to be a quarterback, at least one, that's going to get knocked out of a game on Sunday, and if you're following the in-game markets and then look at how they adjust to that new quarterback,
they'll overreact.
Yeah, they'll usually overreact because. Think about your average sports bettor. They're just going to jump in and be like,
they're thinking, oh,
so-and-so's out
on the other team.
And in game, I often like it when the backup comes in, especially if it's a different type of quarterback than what the starting quarterback is, because the defense is never prepared for it. I mean, you saw Browning last week.
Oh, dude, last week
fantastic.
We said that. I said that in the Discord chat. I had bet on the Jaguars. And I was like, oh, fuck, Browning's coming in. He's going to be fucking better than Burrow. And he was.
I always hate. Yeah, no, I had the Jaguars as well. They should have really covered that game regardless. But I do think oftentimes it is it's a bad thing for the other team when you bet them. I never like seeing the backup come in. Like, I've handicapped this game with the starter in there. Obviously, I put my money on it, confident that I'm on the right side. I don't want to see any massive change. I mean, outside of the fact, like if it's a Mahomes or, maybe some of these guys where there is a significant maybe drop off to their backup. But
yeah, it depends who it is.
Right. Yeah. No, there's no doubt. I mean, Jalen Hurts goes out
like Joe Burrow.
Yeah. And obviously it depends on who that backup is as well. I don't want to see Josh Allen. If I'm betting against Josh Allen, I'm happy that he's not in the game. Right. There's a handful of the Lamar for sure. Right. There's a couple of these guys, but on the whole, the backups aren't that far off typically the starter. And I think the reaction tends to be an overreaction. So just keep that in mind when you're watching the games and you're in bed, because your inclination is going to be, Burrow's out. Let me bet Jacksonville. And oftentimes the better bet would be the other side. So something to watch and something to track and kind of know who I need to do a better job of myself, knowing who the backup quarterbacks are for all these teams. So you're kind of prepared if you are in game betting for that situation to happen. All right, let's jump to the defending champs. They are at home. They get the Rams. Interesting. I mean, this is a big time game here already early in the season. You've got the Philadelphia Eagles look like they will be the best team in the East, competing for probably best record overall in the NFC. And I think the Rams have their sights set on winning that division. They may be the best team. I think we talked about it in week one. I mean, you yelled at me that I said the Rams will be better than they were last year. And like, they were a playoff team. I'm like, yeah, but they weren't that good. I know, like they made the playoffs, but they weren't like, I think they're a better team this year. I thought they were coming in. So I think this is going to be an interesting matchup. Now, Philly, how many times can Philly win in the manner that they've won the first two games? Tough matchups, granted. Well, we assume that Kansas City game was a tough matchup. Dallas may not have been as tough a matchup after we saw what they did against the Giants. Now, that Giant offense was able to roll Dallas. And, Philly, the offense was doing fine there. I guess we could give that weather break maybe cost both teams a little bit of momentum offensively. But you look at I'll give the Philly defense a pass against Dallas, who moved the ball really well, in the fact that Carter kind of goes out of that game, I think, on play one. Defense played obviously much better last week, but this offense concerns me, especially the passing game. They're just not doing anything in the passing game. You have to think at some point they're going to have to throw the ball a little better than they have in order to win some games. Which side do you like here? We've got 3 to 3.5, depending on which book you're looking at. Over on DraftKings, so they've got 3.5, 44.5, and both of those with a little less juice on the favorite and the over. So which sides we like on this one?
Jalen Hurts has looked terrible. I think he didn't throw the ball more than 10 yards past the line of scrimmage last week. 11% of their plays were tush pushes last week. He just looks like he doesn't know how to like play quarterback correctly. Like their offense has been just so bad. With Jalen Hurts throwing the way that he's throwing right now, teams are just gonna be able to load the box. I don't have any interest in backing Philly like in the foreseeable future. The Rams, on the other hand, have looked electric on both, on especially on defense. They've been great. They held the Texans to 9. Then Tennessee had 13 last week. I think the Rams might be better than the Eagles. So I like the Rams here and the under because the Eagles, I don't see scoring many points.
Yeah, I think that's a take that may be controversial, but it's one I actually agree with you here. I do my power rankings, and 2 weeks into the season, the way a lot of people are going to do it is that when they do their rankings is kind of, they'll look towards last year. And I used to do that too. Use some of last year's data. But
something's wrong with Jalen Hurts.
Yeah. Looking at this year, well, last year they weren't all that great throwing the ball either. Or 2 years ago really their record was far better 2 years ago before Barkley. And I know I joke around with we've got some Philly fans in our Discord, and they just never rated nearly as high as what their record showed 2 years ago. And I said, they're going to get knocked out of the playoffs early, and they did 2 years ago. The addition of Barkley certainly has changed that team. But when I look at this year, and it's only 2 games, they're rated really, really poorly for me. And again, the ratings are looking at, okay, well, what did Dallas do against their other opponent? Well, geez, they gave up a ton of points. I mean, you had Russell Wilson, who has not been anything for about 3, 4, 5 years, whatever it's been, just throwing up 400-yard games against this defense. So, and I think that was more of what the Dallas defense is than what Hurts was able to do against them. You saw that it was a little bit of sour grapes. I don't know if you saw the clip of Chris Jones with Kansas City.
They didn't do anything because as I said, 11% of their snaps were fucking tush pushes.
It's remote. I don't want to get into the tush push all that much. I don't like I know you're a proponent, like, go ahead and stop it. It's not so much the tush push for me. It's I see these guys, like, it's not a design play. Guy catches a pass for 5 yards. He's got to get 7 for the first down. He gets stood up, and then, 3 offensive linemen come behind him and just shove him from behind the 2 yards. Like, if the defense does that, they don't get to move him back. He gets his forward progress. But when the offense does it, he gets to move forward 2 yards. I hate it. I saw one offensive lineman literally grab the arm of a guy who was falling. The runner was falling. He grabbed his arm. He was in front of him. So he pulled him, another 1.5 yards over the line. To me, it's not football, but that's a discussion for another day. I think when you look at this team, because of the tush push, it is a huge advantage. It is why they don't look as good statistically as maybe their record shows, because it's unstoppable in short yardage. And if you can convert all of your 3rd and shorts and 4th and shorts, of course, that's going to change the how you look overall based on what your statistics look like. So the fact that they're kind of making up for the lack of being able to throw the ball with their high conversion rate success.
This is the main point that I want to make, though. The guards do dive forward every time, and most of the time they haven't called it, but they actually have said they're going to have some emphasis on calling these false starts. And if the refs start calling those false starts, their 4th down conversion, 4th and 3rd and short conversion percentage, which is pretty much only rivaled in NFL history by that year that the Panthers were 15-1 with Cam Newton. If that conversion rate goes down, the Eagles are not that good.
100%.
So, I need to see what the refs are going to do. But either way, I don't think this is a particularly good matchup for them. I think the Rams are going to win straight up.
I'm with you on this one. So I like the Rams. Do we like the total at all?
Under, because the Eagles' offense, I just don't trust them to score, and the Eagles' defense is still good. So,
yeah, no, the Eagles' defense is definitely strong. I agree with you here. I'm going to take the Rams plus the points. I'll take the under as well. I think it's going to be a good game. But I like the Rams.
I don't know about a good game. I think it'll be low scoring.
Well, it may not be exciting to watch. I just think it's going to be a tight one. It should come down to the last possession, and maybe it won't be as exciting as a shootout would be, but I think it should be a good game. All right, let's move on to the next game here. We've got maybe the best team in football, at least a lot of people think that, on the road as a more than a touchdown favorite in Cleveland. The total is low here, 41.5. We're looking at upwards of 8.5 on the line at DraftKings. A lot of books are anywhere between 7.5 and 8, so you can get a lot of different numbers on this one. All right, Green Bay, are they the best team in the league? And do they blow out Cleveland here and cover more than a touchdown?
No. I think Cleveland will keep the pace of this game relatively low. The Packers, I think, will run the ball a lot too. But any kind of explosive offense from Green Bay is, that leans right into what Cleveland is able to stop. Like if Jordan Love steps back, Myles Garrett's going to kill him. So I see this one staying pretty low scoring and tight, 23-17, maybe a little lower scoring than that. But I like Cleveland with the points in a game with a lot of punting going on.
Yeah, I agree. Do you like Cleveland more than you like the under?
Probably.
Yeah, I don't love. It's not a game I love, but I would lean more towards the under. I'm in agreement with you on both sides of this one. I would lean more towards the under. I think this Green Bay defense. I think both of these defenses are really, really good. I think
Green Bay's defense is nasty.
Green Bay defense is elite now, and that's a huge addition, obviously, getting Micah. But I think both of these defenses play well. I think Green Bay's really I think they're going to be leaning on that defense a lot this year and playing accordingly. I don't think they're looking to necessarily just kind of open it up. I think they keep this game. I think this game stays low scoring for that reason. And if it's going to be a low scoring game, it's really tough to pass up on 8.5 points, right? So, we're looking at a low total like that. Typically, you're going to like the favorite and the over in a game with just a 41 total and 8 points as the spread. So I do like the under because of that. I'll lean to Cleveland myself, and so give me the dog and the under on that one. All right, let's move on to we've got divisional matchup here in the AFC. A couple of teams that could definitely use a win. We got the Texans going to Jacksonville. Tight line, 1.5 points, 44.5 on the total. Trevor Lawrence and that offense. We got ETN. A lot of people in fantasy world are we getting nervous about ETN snap share? A lot of things to consider in this game. Houston coming off that real tough loss to Tampa. Jacksonville, we mentioned earlier, the game against Cincinnati last week, probably should have won that game, if not at least covered that game. What do we like here? In this matchup? The Texans are in Jacksonville.
Dude, Jacksonville's put up a lot of points. I know that the Bengals defense and the Panthers defense are not exactly like fucking the Eagles and the Rams, but they've put up points, and I don't really have any faith in Houston to do shit. And I've been down on Houston from the beginning of this year. They haven't done anything to change my mind. I think this line is really bad. I like Jacksonville and the over.
Yeah, I am with you on this one as well. I think there's a lot of, I think the consensus and the feeling on Jacksonville is just so bad right now that I think we're getting a good price with Houston.
The new coach, they look good.
They look good I think their offenses look really.
Their offense looks great.
Yeah. I agree. They're putting points up. You make a valid point here. They haven't played a great defense. This is going to be a much more difficult defense to score on, but I have not been happy with what I'm seeing out of the offense for Houston. So I think push comes to shove. I just think Jacksonville will be able to do a little bit more offensively here than I think Houston does. I like Jacksonville to cover this one. I think the game. I do think the game goes over. I think the total's a little low here for the 44.5. So I'm gonna take the I'll take the home team. I'll take Jacksonville and give me the over on that one. Let's head to one of to your team
Really good
and
stat right
playing your home city. We've got Bryce Young. Can he throw? Is he going to throw for 55 times this week like he did last week against Arizona? They almost come back in that game. I don't know if it was necessarily Bryce Young for the reason that they almost came back in the game, and as much as Arizona allowing them to come back.
What an insane ending to a game.
There was an insane. I mean, for Survivor, a lot of people in Survivor, especially Circa, the Arizona was the number 1 pick team last week. There was a lot of people sweating that game out, and the favorite winds up hanging on, as it has happened here for so far all of this season in Survivor. The big favorites have been able to hold. But what do we like here? Atlanta, 43.5 on the total, 5.5 pretty much everywhere on the spread, as the Falcons, of course, are favored over the Panthers. Which side do you like? Are you going to be biased and take your favorite, the Panthers?
So Atlanta's defense, the knock on them coming into the season, they've been pretty good, decent for like a couple years now, but the knock has been that they have no pass rush. And in that game last week against Minnesota, holy shit, their rookies were getting after it. They made McCarthy, they hurt him, literally. So if Atlanta's pass rush, I spoke before the season, because a lot of my friends are Falcons fans, and they were talking about Penix and Drake London and everything. I said, if the Falcons are going to make a leap forward, it's got to be on defense. Like, I don't think their offense is that great, but god damn, the defense looks amazing. And so I don't think that Carolina is going to be able to score like at all. This could get ugly really fast. I like Atlanta, and I like under.
Yeah, we've got a lot of agreement going on today. I like the Falcons as well, and I agree with you. Just that defense looks real good,
dude. They might be the best defense in the league.
Yeah, we'll see. Let me see where I've got him right now. But and I think the Bryce Young, if you had him in DFS, it worked out for you. But I think this is one of those situations where the numbers looked far better than the actual performance on the field. He just threw the ball so many times, he was bound to get a bunch of points. But that offense, to me, it's with Bryce Young, it has not worked out yet. We'll see how long they're going to be able to hang in there with Bryce Young. We'll see what the season looks like with him. But I don't like how that offense looks against a defense that I agree is looking like one of the better defenses.
The Panthers might not score 10 points.
Yeah, I think they're going to struggle to score. There's no doubt. I've got, it's early in the year, but they're in the top 5 right now in my defensive rankings, Atlanta. So I agree. I think I like this. I'll lay the points. I'll lay the 5.5. And I agree with you on the under. I think Carolina is going to struggle to score. Atlanta, I don't think Atlanta's going to put a ton of points up either. I think they get this one into 20 to 24 points, and that's going to be enough for the cover. And Carolina not even if they get to double digits, it won't be my much. I think this is like a 20 to 10, 20 to 24 to 10 type of final. So I like this one under, and I think Atlanta covers this one as well. All right, let's head over to Minnesota and the battle of the backup quarterbacks. We've got Cincinnati coming in to face the Vikings. This is a 3-point spread, 42.5 on the total. We were discussing this, I think, yesterday. We were just kind of trying to figure it out. It was difficult to figure this one out as far as what was the line move based on Burrow, because we've also got an injury with McCarthy on the other side. So you've got 2 quarterbacks that are out. I don't know if that injury to I don't know if the Minnesota changing quarterback is necessarily all that much of a bad thing, considering how poorly that quarterback has played. Definitely a downgrade here with Burrow, but as we talked about, maybe not nearly as much as the market may have thought. 3 points here for the Vikings at home. Do we like that? Can they cover here with Wentz against Browning? And the 42.5 is the total. Which way do you like it?
The line has gone up since Wentz was announced as a starter. It was 1.5 with McCarthy. Now it's 3 with heavy juice, even money at most places. To me, the offenses are going to look pretty similar to each other in terms of their ability to score. Obviously Browning downgrade from Burrow, despite my jokes earlier. Wentz, I think Wentz will be able to play better than McCarthy did last week, but the Bengals defense is so bad and Minnesota's defense is pretty good. So, that's the deciding factor for me is I still don't think the Bengals are going to be able to stop Wentz, and Browning could very well get shut down by Minnesota. So I do like Minnesota to cover.
All right, I'm gonna differ with you on this one. I like the Bengals here. So I think the drop off is not nearly. I mean, look, Burrow's better quarterback, obviously. I think Browning's played well here. Played well in that game, of course, last week. I think he's going to be fine. I don't like how this offense has looked for Minnesota. That's for sure. I don't know if they're going to be all that much better with Wentz. I'm not a huge Carson Wentz guy, so I think it's basically a lateral move. I think the market actually took it as a 1 point better. I think it's kind of lateral. So I think we're getting a little bit, I think on both sides here, I think they're going to overprice the Minnesota quarterback change and overprice the Cincinnati move. So I think this game should be closer to kind of where it was when both starting quarterbacks were scheduled to play. I think getting the 3 points, to me, I'm not going to pass up on that. So I do like Cincinnati as a bet plus the 3. Don't have too much of an opinion on the total. It's difficult with both of these quarterbacks in there. 42.5. I would lean to the under. I'm not sure which side you like as far as the total.
I would lean over just because the Bengals defense can give up like a zillion points. But as far as this question right here, do we think Wentz is an autoplay in DFS? No, Mariota. Now Mariota's the autoplay, not Wentz.
No, we don't like. I did not like Wentz as far as fantasy or DFS goes. Myself coming in, he's not rated real high on the boom. We'll see. I'll update it at some point here today. I had it updated this morning before the news with Jaden Daniels. He was highly rated. I think Mariota will probably be.
Mariota is going to be a shock.
Yeah, I think it'll be pretty high rated as well. So, at that 4K, it's going to be ridiculous. That's the thing with DFS, man. You get that one injury and it changes everything, and it'll flip all the high priced running backs and wide receivers are suddenly now.
You're not going to need value when you have Mariota at quarterback.
Right. All right, let's dive into the next one. We've got Pittsburgh at New England. So another one's 1.5, but the road team is the favorite here. Pittsburgh laying 1.5. 44.5 on the total. Patriots, this Pittsburgh team, which Pittsburgh team do we get? Do we get the team that scored a million points against the Jets, or that team that did not look good at all last week at home against Seattle? Just not something you're used to seeing the Steelers do, is just take a beating like that in the second half of a game at home. What do we like here? New England and Pittsburgh.
I mean, my personal data has just been slamming Pittsburgh every week, and it's doing it again. It's the same thing that happened with the Jets last year, where I'm just going to live and die with the Steelers. I can already tell. So Pittsburgh is top of the board for me again. I like Pittsburgh laying the points.
I did have Seattle last week. I've got Pittsburgh as the play myself this week as well. It doesn't feel really good. We've talked about this before. We talked about it when Rodgers went to the Jets, how we just didn't think, we were selling Jets futures quite a bit. But
then week to week, the lines just kept getting so much.
I know.
It's going to happen again. It's going to happen again.
We'll see. This week, I don't love the play. It's just because I just does not feel good to be laying, for this Pittsburgh team to be laying points on the road. Just doesn't feel right. But I'm going to stick with my numbers here, and I'm taking Pittsburgh as well.
It's going to be every week.
It's going to be every week. I know. No, we have those teams. I think I mentioned it to JSU last week. It's like I've got certain teams. I don't think Pittsburgh's necessarily going to fall into this category, but we'll see. But there are teams that are just bad teams, Carolina in years past and possibly this year, that I will have almost every week, and they just won't cover. But everyone forgets about the other bad teams that I do take that win and then aren't necessarily the bad team. But I'll lose to the team 6 times and people just flip out because why are you taking that team? They're obviously bad. I'm like, well, they put a number on it. They're trying to get this to a 50-50 proposition. But there's going to be a team that's just not going to cover for the first 5-6 weeks. They're just going to be a bad team. And unfortunately, a lot of times we're riding that team because of the fact that the market is against it. So sharps look bad on occasion. Taking, the public loves to make fun of when, sharp money is on a certain team and that team just looks like crap. But it happens. It happens a lot. I mean, that's just
people forget that losing by 40 and losing by 3 is the same thing.
That yes, it's just less likely to happen. But people do, yes, they think like if you get blown out by 30, that means you were never, if we play this game 20 more times, that the team that lost is never going to win, which is just not the case. There's a distribution, and they just happen to hit one of the extremes on that distribution. But you're not going to win that game. They'll adjust the line. Like you take a blowout, you take someone who got blown out last week. Obviously, if they played again this week in the same situation, that line's going to be adjusted a bit, especially early in the year because we don't have as much data. But it's not as big a difference as people sometimes think.
Like last night, for instance, we talk about the range of outcomes. Miami, if that game could go completely differently if Miami doesn't return that opening kickoff for 60 yards, because then they were able to go right in, and it's like it changes the outlook of the game. Furthermore, Miami could have won the game at the end, and then it landed like on a very median result, like almost directly on the spread in total. So you could see how it could go in either direction. If they play that game again tomorrow, Bills could win by 30. Miami could win.
I'm never right. I would assume. I'm sure you felt the same way I did. I'm watching that game. I really felt pretty comfortable. I was more concerned because I know we have some Buffalo in Survivor Pool.
Right.
I was more concerned with Buffalo covering that, winning that game than Miami not covering. And then he throws that interception, and you're like, uh-oh. So that's how quick it could change. But Miami had that game covered the entire way.
Well, one thing I'll say is, part of what shows you why those Miami and the over were the right side is that it did land on a very median result, and they both won.
That's right. Yeah, no, that's a good point. What you're saying is that means
it literally landed dead center on the scale, and we hit both of them.
Right. So if you had if there was a bell curve of what you were predicting this game to be, it was pretty much in the middle.
Bryce literally on the show. Yeah. Bryce literally on the show within the first 5 minutes of the show said Buffalo 31, Miami 21.
Yeah, that was
literally that was like
well, we talked. I talked to you before the game, and we both agreed. I thought Miami would be able to move the ball and score,
and
they did. So yeah, that was. But yes, people definitely over.
They don't want to feel bad, and when you lose by 40, it feels bad. It feels bad losing. Period. So losing, I don't know how much it is.
Well, you know what? Okay, so this actually touches on something with I see now that it's become so mainstream with the sports betting. You see just people who are recreationally betting, which is fine. Have some fun, some entertainment, but people they could sleep better at night knowing that they bet on what they consider to be the better team, as opposed to betting like, Carolina's terrible. How could you ever bet them? I'm like, well, they're not going to go 0-17 against the spread. Like,
One thing I said to you, when we first started working together like 10 or 12 years ago was, people want to go to bed at night thinking they bet on the better team, even if they lose. I like starting the game off ahead.
Yes. That's not a bad.
Yeah. You bet the under or the under and the underdog. You start the game off winning.
Unders are a whole nother thing.
Unders and underdog. You start the game off. If lightning strikes the stadium, you're ahead. I mean, obviously would void, but you get my point.
I know, I totally get it, but people don't like, because now I'm rooting against things happening, and people hate doing that. Go find the touts out there. I mean, it's probably 95% overs. Like, nobody's throwing an under.
But then in baseball, they want to take no runs first inning when you should be
the
taking
no runs first inning is the best.
Yes, run first inning is the best.
Yes,
I love
no
yes run first inning.
NRFI, that's all you see.
And they're like, oh, but like you can win so quickly. I'm like, yes, run first inning, you can win in one pitch.
I could wait. Exactly. It's but there's certainly it's a market, and there's a psychology to the market, and understanding that typically, especially on the props, because the props just aren't I mean, there's so many props. You can't have that much action.
Nowadays, they like don't offer unders on.
Well, there's certain ones, and I would, be very, very hesitant to ever bet props. This is why the touchdown props are typically the worst bets on the board,
because they won't let you bet against it.
Well, exactly. If I could bet against your number, well, now you've got to make a little bit better price. So the fact that you're only giving me an option of yes, like he's going to score a touchdown, and that's the only side I can bet, they can juice the crap at you. Really don't know what the juice is and the vig or the hold, whatever is on that bet. It's virtually impossible to be able to calculate, where if it's a two-sided market, it's really easy to calculate what that hold
this is part of it. People bet to be entertained. I get that, and I totally understand that. And if you're betting $10, fucking hammer those overs and do what you want to do to have fun watching the game, But when you're grinding it out for as long as we've been grinding it out,
well, I think listen, you run into people just as much as I do, and you tell them what you do for a living, and they think it's fun. And I'm not saying it's not. We wouldn't do it because we didn't enjoy it, but it's a job like every other job. So you're grind. I always, maybe people overuse the word, I'm grinding today. I say it too. I'm like, the average person really does not want to grind out sports betting. Like, it's just not fun.
I would not. People have asked me if this is what they should get into, and I say no.
Oh, I tell everybody no. Yeah. I tell everybody.
So much stress. But yeah.
So if you were making 2 units a week, like, you're doing really well. Nobody wants to do that. They want to win 50 units in a day.
And that's not how it works. You win 50 and then lose 40.
Well, yeah. And you can do it with the parlays too. If you're playing, a lot of, I don't want to get off on too big of a tangent, but people love to play these big parlays. Well, if every leg of your parlay is a plus EV bet, there's nothing wrong with playing the parlay.
It's the same fucking thing.
It's the same thing. You're just not going to.
You got to make sure there's no SGP leg in it, so that will reduce the
SGPs are a whole nother thing. Ed Miller on that same podcast was talking about SGPs, and you're going to have to do a lot of digging. Probably won't find it in the NFL because it's so liquid. But look at other sports. There are, they can't price all these things correctly. There was a time, now they fixed it on FanDuel, so I could talk about it. But I knew some guys who were taking the SGPs. They were taking the entire line. The game obviously had to fit a certain criteria. There were high team total type of games. They were taking the entire 9 starting batters and betting them for multi-hits. And
I remember reading an article.
And betting them for home runs. And these are guys, one of the guys I knew. And of course, they wound up hitting a few of these games for like 7. I mean, you've got to bet a lot of money too, because you're round robbing.
Right, and it's such high variance that if you don't start with a ton of money,
that's right,
the risk of ruin is high.
Exactly. So it's not for everybody, but it's there, and you don't necessarily have to pound it like these other guys are doing, who are professionals, and they're betting, a few $1,000s on each one of these SGPs and taking the whole thing. But you could still use some of what they did. And look, it takes a lot of work, and it's not easy to figure out the correlation on all these SGPs. But and the one thing I would look, and I have not had the time to do it myself, is kind of look at the negatively correlated plays, because my gut is, and I know I've heard this from other people, a lot of times those are the ones that are mispriced. I know, and when I say that, it's like if you took Jalen Hurts's over passing yardage with the under
in the game, yeah.
Well, or under AJ Brown's receiving yardage, like where there's a negative correlation there to those things. If Hurts throws for a lot, typically, there's that's one thing you could look at.
Right. I'll go ahead and answer this question. When I graduated college, I had reached out to him just because I had been winning at sports betting just based on having a math background, and he like kind of took me under his wing, and yeah, it was like a cold email. He kind of took me under his wing and taught me a bunch of stuff, and I moved out to Vegas, and we kind of just went from there. And eventually, when he retired from Wall Street and started doing it full time too, just kind of joined in with me, and we're here now, 12 years later, still doing it.
No, I mean it wasn't planned for me. It was more planned for you, as far as that's what you really wanted to do when you graduated school, and I was kind of playing more for fun and building models and whatnot. But yeah, it's been a good relationship for a long time now. But yeah, it was fun when you were in Vegas. That was the pre-legalization in all these states.
Yes.
And you were the runner. You were basically a runner. I don't know how you did it. I mean, now that I know you well, it fits your personality. I couldn't do it. Running from sportsbook to sportsbook in Vegas, like you're like, all right, I'm over at I'm at Circa, I'm at MGM, and
that was before Circa existed.
Circa wasn't even there. Yeah, it was.
And the Westgate was the Hilton.
Westgate. I'm sorry.
It was the Hilton.
Westgate was still the Hilton. Actually, yeah, the Westgate became the Westgate right when it wasn't the Hilton. When I met you in person,
it was the LVH for a while.
Right. It was Las Vegas,
like a year.
Right.
Yeah. And that was before they fixed the ventilation, when it still just like smelled crazy like cigarettes the entire time.
Yes. But you would run from book to book, and we would get limited. Right, they would limit you right to your face. Or they move the line on you,
moving the line and being like, you can take this line. That was
so I'd run. I'm like, hey, get the Blue Jays minus 125. You'd go to the window, and they're like, oh, hold on 1 second. Then they come back and say, yeah, you could bet it's minus 135.
Yeah,
so
that happened to me at FanDuel 2 days ago.
Yeah, no, it's just it sucks. It's part of the deal. And it's it is difficult. That's one of the many things that you got to deal with if you're a professional bettor. Just getting the bets down is difficult enough.
I remember this vividly. It was in 2017. We were grinding it out. We were making good money, but nothing like crazy. And then I want to say it was the last game of the NBA season, or the last day of the NBA season, and the Nuggets had nothing to play for. This would have been in 2017. This was right before I got married. And
this was like 3 days before you got married.
Yeah. And every projection site had Jokic only playing like a quarter. And we just jammed in every lineup on Jokic playing the whole game. And he was like 1% owned because everybody thought he was going, and he cost like 12,000 or whatever it is. And he played the whole game and got like 80. And I went like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 on the leaderboard on both sites, and that kind of changed everything.
That was definitely the first. Yeah, it was the first big hit. It was the first time we were like, okay, yeah,
like okay, this is a lot of money.
Yeah, we could do this.
Right.
Yeah, so that was a good day. I bought donuts.
That was the conversion from betting full time to this fantasy thing might be it.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. All right, let's jump back. I don't think anyone wants to hear us ramble on. Let's get they want some winners. So let's get to the game we were just talking about. Quarterback here before the show started with Washington. We're gonna have a change of quarterback due to injury. Vegas on the road, 3-point dog right now to the Commanders. I almost said the old name, and the total is 43.5. 2.5 actually over at DraftKings if you like Washington. So what do we like here? Got Commanders and the Raiders.
I'll say this first, Matt. We probably will do that at some point. There's a lot of stories from.
God. Yeah, we're gonna do it after. I don't care about what anyone. If I don't necessarily need to work again, then we can tell all the stories.
Legacy T. As far as this game, I like the Raiders. I'm against the Commanders very much. It's like the Texans. I was against them before the season. I thought Jaden Daniels was overrated. I do not think the team really improved that much. And I think the offense was going to take a step back, and nothing's really changed. So despite the line being, 2 or 3, the only thing that gives me pause is, as John spoke about, I think that this line has moved more than it should have based on the Daniels to Mariota switch. I still don't think that the Commanders are very good. So I am going with the Raiders.
Yeah, I liked the Raiders coming into this one before the news. I'm gonna have to just reassess it and make sure I still agree. But I like the Raiders +3. I think you're right. I'm more concerned with the fact that I think this line may have just moved a little bit more than it perhaps should have. But yeah, we've both been a little down on Commanders coming into the season, and probably higher on the Raiders than a lot of people were coming into the season. So that combination there, I do like Vegas. I like the points here. I think I'm still going to be on this game, Vegas +3. I think you want to get this 3. I have a feeling this goes 2.5. This has got a chance to go 2.5 at most books. So you can get 3 in a lot of spots right now. I would try to get that 3. As I'm looking at it, I don't know if it changed. Yeah, I think there was only one book at 2.5 a second ago. So it looks like a couple of books have changed already down to 2.5. I would try to grab that 3 if you can on the Raiders as quickly as possible. All right. We got this should be a good one. I mean, Denver at LA with the Chargers. 3-point spread again, 45.5 up to 46.5, depending on the book. Here is your total. The Chargers, I think the Chargers are looking like one of the better teams to me in the AFC this year. I think Denver, that offense looked pretty shaky week 1. We talked about maybe that Tennessee defense a little bit better than people think. Curious your thoughts on this game. I think to me, I don't know, the total looks a little high for me, but I want your take.
I agree. The total's high. I think the game stays under. I think both these defenses have looked very strong. I think people are very, very high on the Chargers and are thinking this line is a little off, but they forget that Denver was kind of housing Indianapolis before that weird shit happened at the end of the game. I think these teams are pretty close to even, so I'm going to take Denver with the 3 minus $1.20.
Yeah, I don't have a strong lean, but my lean is with you here on the Denver side. I'm a little concerned with the identity of this Charger team was kind of run the ball control, pound it. They have not looked good running the ball. Now they didn't really try, and maybe
they'll put down some linemen in Denver's pass rush is great.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, you look at the week 1, they played Kansas City. Everyone's expecting that same Charger team that we saw last year. Like Herbert, really not a factor for fantasy. He's going to hand the ball off more often than not. They didn't do that, and then they come out last week, and they just could not run the ball at all. I mean, this is starting to look like maybe they came into that week 1 because Kansas City last year, you couldn't run on that Kansas City team.
They know without Slater that they can't run.
Yeah, so I think Harbaugh was really, maybe it's just a really smart game plan. He's got, Herbert is a pretty good quarterback, and he's got weapons. It was obviously a pretty smart game plan in week 1 to go ahead and really throw the ball more than anyone really expected. But I think last week they wanted to run the ball and they couldn't. So I'm concerned with that. I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball here. They're definitely going to be more one-dimensional. It's hard for me to say that with this Charger team because I was so
and they took a running back first round.
That's and I took him in an auction draft.
He sucks.
He's been terrible. And he looks bad. He's making and not that Najee Harris has looked good.
Najee Harris can at least block,
but he looks better than and I'm forgetting his name. It's Hampton. Hampton, but he has looked better. I mean, because I'm watching it closely because I'm like, I made a pretty decent investment in my auction league, and this guy just does not look good. But also the blocking is not there either. So I'm concerned with this Charger team. I'll take Denver plus the points, and I think the better side here is the under, though. I think both of these defenses control this game.
The over seems high.
It seems very high. It's actually concerning high. But I guess when you look at the Denver game last week was a lot of points. I think this looks a lot more like the Tennessee game for Denver than it does this the Indianapolis team. I think their games are going to be shootouts. What's
yeah, Najee Harris with the eye patch.
Oh, you love that. All right, let's move on. We got the 4:00 games. Seahawks, they're hosting the Saints. Saints were the team coming into this year. There's always that one team everyone says they're going to be playing for the first round pick or the first number 1 overall pick. They're tanking. I hate that narrative.
No football team tanks.
No team. Well, the players don't, and the coaches don't. Now the ownership and the front office may put a really crappy product on the field.
Stephen Ross.
But you ain't tanking once that roster is set. Nobody's tanking. And I think the Saints have really played. I think they've played a lot better than people think. The record hasn't shown. They were in the game against Arizona, in the game against San Francisco last week. Seattle's coming off what was, I think, a surprising to a lot of people performance against Pittsburgh on the road. So kind of riding high here. Do we catch? Can we fade Seattle off a high and New Orleans maybe still on a low?
Yeah. Rattler has looked surprisingly competent. They've still got Kamara, Olave, Shaheed. The offense seems to be moving. Like, I'm not going to call them like good, but like definitely not in like the bottom 5 of the league. Like, they can move it a little bit. That, a lot of that probably has to do with Kellen Moore. So yeah, I like New Orleans and I like the over with it only being 41.5. Those are, to me, those are correlated despite it being a dog and because if New Orleans scores, the game's going over. The only way the game goes under is if New Orleans gets fucking shut down because Seattle will get theirs. So I like New Orleans in the over.
I agree with you. I think you're right with that. I think if you were looking to parlay it, if this game goes over, it's because New Orleans is putting some points on the board. I think you're right. I think Seattle's going to be able to get their points. I don't think New Orleans necessarily holds them down, but I think the Saints get, they could score in the 20s here. I think we can get this game up into the 50s as far as the final total when it's all said and done. So I agree with you.
There might be some ladders on the over under.
Oh, easily ladders on the
like
on the
betting
total.
it. I like it up to like 50.5.
I'm good with that. We got to look at what the alt markets look like on that total. But you said it, and I was thinking it, and I was thinking you might want to take this, some alt lines to the total. So I agree with you there. I'll take the points with the Saints and give me the over as well. All right, let's move on to the next game in that 4:00 window. We've got maybe what's going to be the most played game in DFS this week. Highest total on the board. You've got two teams that look pretty bad. We were high on Dallas. I don't know, maybe not we. The market was high on Dallas after the Philly game, and I don't know if the entire market can reverse on the same team, be high on a team after a loss, and then be so down on a team after a win. I've never seen it before. But that's the case here with the Dallas Cowboys coming into this week, and the Bears just have not looked good at all. Everyone expecting this to be a lot of points. Do you expect this to be as many points as the market does, 50.5? And who do you like? The Bears are getting points at home here, albeit just 1.5.
These defenses are so bad. The defenses are so bad. It's got to go over, right? Dak Prescott's been playing great. Caleb Williams has looked fine, like not terrible, fine. I don't blame him. That first game he played really well in the first half and then missed a couple throws right at the end, but it wasn't like his overall performance was bad. And then last week certainly wasn't his fault. This game is going to be like fucking 40-40 again. But at the end of the day, I'll take Dak Prescott and Aubrey to get this done rather than Caleb Williams and whoever the fuck the Bears have.
Yeah, well, Aubrey was certainly a weapon, and it's nice to have a guy who could kick it from 60. But I said to my dad, I was sitting next to my dad watching that game, and I'm like, if they just get to the 50, you're kicking. Like, if you just get to the 50, and that's not hard
for a 65-yard field goal.
100%. I would have too. I mean, it goes to part of the decision making with some of these teams. We talked about it last week with Lamar having where they didn't go for it at the end of the game, and then when I was on the show with JSU, apparently Lamar had said that he had cramped up, and that's why they didn't go. But I mean, these teams, you can move to the 50 really quickly, and when you have a weapon like that, you only need to get to the 50 for a field goal. They'll clamp down once you get beyond that 50 and really try to tighten it up a little bit. But yeah, it's a huge weapon that the Cowboys have. This when you look at Williams, not the most accurate of passers, but what I've always said with inaccurate passers is I don't want the short throw. If I have an inaccurate young quarterback with a good arm, I want them to throw the ball down the field, because to me, that's where you don't need to be as accurate. Now my receiver can adjust to the ball. And what was the success last week for the Giants? It was throwing the ball downfield. I mean, the coverage was abysmal.
Moonball Russ was back, baby.
He does throw a beautiful deep ball. You got to give Russ that. But I'd be hard pressed here for the Bears not to come into this game saying we got to take our shots down the field. And I just think it opens up a lot. I mean, Williams, at least running the ball, is a massive threat. So I do think there are going to be points scored in this game. I think at the end of the day, I agree with you. I'll lean here to the Cowboys just for the simple fact of the quarterback. I'll take Dak over.
Dak has played really well this year.
He's looked excellent. So you can't take anything away from Dak. I thought he's been playing really well, and he should play really well against this weak Bears defense. I think at the end of the day, they do come out on top, and I agree with you. It's going to be hard to hold either one of these offenses down with how these defenses have looked.
This is
all right. Let's jump. We got the last game of the 4 o'clocks. San Francisco hosted. These are both these teams 2-0 now, right? And maybe not the most impressive of 2-0 teams, but big matchup out there in the West NFC. The Cardinals on the road. They're getting less than a field goal unless you're at DraftKings, where you pay a little bit more juice and get the 3 points there. 45.5 on the total. Kyler Murray, and they just have not. They've played a rather weak first two.
You saw
games.
the Mike Vick photo?
Yes, I did see that. Yes, that's an excellent photo. No doubt. The caption you sent me was also rather funny. Yes. But but we'll see. This was Arizona was a very popular pick first 2 weeks for Survivor, just for the fact that they played two of the worst teams in football. They're going to obviously step it up here against San Francisco. They were able to go on the road last week against a weak team themselves and play a tight game. So these teams have really not been able to really blow anyone out, but they're 2-0, both with weak schedules. Huge game, really, for that division. What do you like here, San Francisco at home to the Cardinals?
I'm leaning toward the 49ers here. Arizona, yeah, they won those first 2 games, but not in mega impressive fashion. Both at home, or sorry, no, one was at New Orleans, and San Francisco also won at New Orleans. But they have not done a whole lot to make me believe in them. The Cardinals.
I think the Cardinals.
I'm not necessarily.
Cardinals were home that week 1 to Carolina, to New Orleans, weren't they? They were at home.
No, it was on the road.
Was that a road game? Okay.
Yeah, and San Francisco was also on the road in New Orleans. But I'm going to need to see it, and I have a lot more faith in San Francisco, even with Mac Jones, and the fact that they're at home, even more than the 49ers. So I like the over here. These defenses really don't impress me very much. So I like San Francisco the over.
Yeah, I don't love the guy. But I do lean the San Francisco side. It's not a game I particularly like, but I just don't like what I've seen. More so on that Arizona side. That offense, it's not clicking. Maybe it's just sour grapes because I kind of like Murray here in the both games. He's been okay. Hasn't reached 20 plus points DFS wise, but he's been okay in those games. But I've been watching those games closely with Survivor implications and bets, and I'm just not a fan of how that offense looks right now. So I agree with you on the side. I'm not confident here on this one going over on the total. I think this could be. I would lean more towards the under on that game. And as I'm staring at my screen, that game went. I don't know. Oh, there it is. I thought it went off the board there for a second, but it is still up there. But yeah, the 45.5. I would lean to the under on that one. And I agree. I think San Francisco at home. I just think they're the better team. And really that line is only saying that they're maybe a half point better. I think 2 points is now kind of the home field advantage in the NFL. So are they only a half point better on a neutral side? I think San Francisco's got way more talent here than the Arizona side. I'll take the 49ers. I'm with you on that one. All right, we'll head to the primetime game. And we've got an interesting primetime matchup, I guess, because it's in New York. Maybe it's a whole Taylor Swift thing. That's why they're they're choosing this one for the night game, but you get a pretty bad Giants team who scored a lot of points. I don't know if that's necessarily going to be the case this week, hosting the Chiefs, who obviously are in dire need of a win, and they get a pretty poor defense to go up against. This Kansas City offense has not looked good at all this year, but the defense, I think, still solid. Obviously, we talked about how well they played against Jalen Hurts. What do we like here? Chiefs on the road, primetime game at the Giants, 6 points, 44.5, 45.5 at DraftKings.
Mahomes leads all quarterbacks in the league in rushing, and that is not good for the Chiefs. They suck. It kind of reminds me of the Eagles, except they've actually lost the games. They just look completely inept on offense. It's all Mahomes. The rest of the guys are completely disjointed. The offensive line's playing terrible. Kelsey looks awful. They can't run the ball. How are you going to take a team like that as a 6-point favorite on the road against a team we just saw put up 37? The Chiefs are going to need to show me that they can turn it around before I'm going to believe it. I like the Giants.
Yeah, I know fantasy is not necessarily sports betting, but is there an offensive player on the Chiefs that you're really interested in playing in any of these?
Other than Mahomes, this week? No.
Yeah, it's been awful, and quite frankly, it's not like this is new. People were high on Pacheco coming in.
The only guy that's ever done shit with Mahomes is Rashee Rice.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you play their wide receiver, like it's a guessing game as to which wide receiver is going to score. They really don't have a focus.
Now that Kelsey's old, Now that Kelsey's old.
Well, yes, because Kelsey was always that guy. But I think that's a good point, because you're seeing Kelsey is obviously not the same receiver. He's lost at least a step. Still, listen, he's still one of the better tight ends in the league, but he's not the tight end that made you not have to have a viable wide receiver, which they really have not had all that many great wide receivers here. So now
but it's like, dude, they fucking had DeAndre Hopkins and all these people. They had Juju. Like, all these guys are Pro Bowlers.
They were.
Hollywood Brown, Pro Bowler. They're all Pro Bowlers.
So what are we saying?
I don't get it. I don't understand. But they suck.
Is it Andy Reid?
No, it's just I think it's got to be the line. It's got to be the line, because they can't run it either.
They cannot run, and that's a big problem. A team like this, they definitely need to run. You're right. I mean, when Mahomes is your leading rusher, that is a big problem. That is not how they want to play. Mahomes running is great when he's throwing and running, but it's running for his life is not what this team can do. And
that's the only way they can move the ball.
And it is one of the few ways they can move the ball. And he's been fragile in years past when he has had to run. So I think that's something to look at as well as as something to be a little bit worried about with the Chiefs. So do you like, I don't know if I missed it. Do you like the Giants here plus the points?
Yes.
Okay. So we like Giants.
I think that there's a very, very real likelihood the Chiefs are 0-3 by Monday.
That's interesting. I'll be surprised if they lose this game. I don't necessarily disagree with you.
You think they can cover Neighbors too? They can't cover Neighbors.
But is he going to have the time? Will Wilson have the time to throw the ball against? I don't know. So I think this game actually goes under. I think we're overvaluing. So I prefer the.
This is true. Worthy under. Was good, and he's gone.
Yeah. No. Exactly. No, that was a big blow too. No doubt. Losing Worthy. Big blow to this offense. I think with the struggles of this offense, I think that was to me, that Giant game was more of an anomaly offensively last week. I don't think we're going to see this Giant offense putting up a ton of points all season long. This is still a pretty good Kansas City defense, if not excellent Kansas City defense. I think we get a low scoring matchup. So I prefer this one to go under.
Just a note on that. It's gone from 43 to 45.
It has gone up. Yeah, no, you're right. But let me look. I don't have my the history chart. When did it start going up? Did it go up on Sunday, or did it go up during the week here this week?
Give me a second. Pull it up.
Just wondering if that's a reaction to how many points.
The big move was on the 16th at 9:30 in the morning.
All right, so that was during the week. Okay, so then so a big bet came in post. So that's really not an overreaction.
It was probably after the Giants put up all those points on Dallas.
Well, the 16th was during the week. The 14th was the Sunday. So
I'm saying that was Monday. So it was
Tuesday.
after the Giants had put up all the points on Dallas.
That's probably what the move was. But I still like this game to go under. I still believe in the Kansas City defense. I think someone just mentioned it in the chat about that cheap defense. Adam was mentioning it. But I agree. I mean, last year the defense really carried them all the way. That was an elite defense, and I think they're going to have to rely on their defense as well this year. The nice thing is when you have a great defense, and I think that's the case with Philly. I think Philly's defense is pretty good, and when you, in their case, being efficient on those 3rd and 4th and shorts, is similar to having a quarterback like a Mahomes who can convert a lot of those 3rd and short, 4th and shorts, whether he's running it or doing something Mahomes like. I think does give them a little bit of an edge, but I agree. I just don't think I'm not a fan of this offense, and I think that Giant game was just more the fact that Dallas defense looked so bad. I'll take the under 45.5. All right, let's get to the last game here on the schedule. Pretty good one, Monday night. Potentially a Super Bowl matchup. We'll see. Baltimore and Detroit. The Ravens at home. They're going to lay 4.5. Most books, FanDuel's all the way up to 5.5, 53.5 on the DraftKings total. What do we like here? I mean, there's a big total on this game. We've seen obviously both of these teams be able to put points up on the board with their offenses. What do we like here with Baltimore and Detroit?
I think the line opened a little high on the spread. So I like Detroit here. I think this is a field goal game. And I'm not sure you could make the number high enough. I think they're going to get into the 30s. It'll be a wildly entertaining game, and I am very much looking forward to it. And in any kind of game like that, high variance of results, give me the dog.
I'll agree with you here on. I agree with you on both sides. It's more of a lean here on the Detroit side, but I just don't think they can. I don't think either one of these teams are going to stop
punting.
the other. Yeah, this is going to be one of those games. Very few punts. Maybe you mix in a turnover or two, which is going to add to the total potentially of wherever that turnover takes place. So I agree. I think this. I think we're looking at a lot of points. Should be a fun, interesting showdown slate on that one. We're going to probably have to look for some. That's going to be one where we're going to have to look for some cheap options because the expensive ones are going to be really good. So we're gonna have to find maybe there'll be a sub 1K option in that game so we could fit in more of these strong plays, but we'll worry about that one come Monday night. So I'm in agreement. I like this one over, and I would lean towards the dog here. I'll take Detroit plus those points. All right, that is the entire NFL slate. Any parting words, JBC?
Good luck, everybody.
Yeah, hopefully you all win some money this week. Enjoy yourselves, and we'll be back again next week at 1 o'clock probably next week. We'll see. I've got a meeting at 2, so we had to do this one a little early. All right, good luck, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.